Should we be following the rules or not?
Over the years, I've gorilla shot maybe 10 to 15 times.
You're risking losing your gear.
You can do some things that may be a little bit on the shady side.
Anytime you violate that, you are going to be caught.
I was so idealistic when I got into this field. I really believed that everybody worked honestly and that I could have a lifetime in this fairy tale of the television industry and radio in my case. When I got into it, within I'd say three months of being a manager of K102 up at Lake Tahoe, the FCC showed up. He showed up because he wanted a ski vacation. He shows up on Friday during snowstorms. They come up and they give you big tickets, in our case $15,000, that we fought and didn't have to pay. And he did it, and they did it so often that every station in the basin, 6 of them, literally would prepare on Fridays for a visit from the FCC because we knew they were going up there to legitimize their ski vacation. When their request for 5 days of our logs came in, a request that included don't tamper, don't touch anything, don't change anything, I went through and I looked at the 5 days and I saw 2 signatures missing. And I forged those signatures because I was ticked off, because this guy was trying to get us with a $15,000 ticket. It wasn't legitimate. I knew they were trying to get a ski vacation on us, and I was that mad that I would go back and forge a signature in order to falsify logs that were going back to the FCC.
Okay, so what's our argument, Chris?
I think it's clear. Should I? Would you have?
Are we talking in general? Because in this specific incident, I don't know what to say. Yeah, you probably were okay in that, but I think in the larger issue, should we have done something to prevent the FCC from messing with those stations? Yeah, that's the better thing. If we're talking in general, should we be following the rules or not? Should we be cheating or not? I have to go on the side of order. I have to go on the side of rules. It used to be a world of run and gun shooting. It used to be a matter of honor that I could get away without doing permits. Now, with our society, the way it is anytime you do that, all you're asking for is trouble that's going to come down the road later.
Over the years, I've gorilla shot maybe 10 to 15 times. And by gorilla shooting, I mean that I go out without getting permission. I'll shoot, get ready to run, jump into my car, and I do in cases when people start coming at me, and I get away with a shot without going through all the permitting process.
I think that's a dumb thing to do. You're risking getting arrested, you're risking losing your gear, and the bigger thing is how good is the footage you're getting with this? And again, maybe if you're working on a documentary that is low budget and a big issue, but by and large, if you are making stories, if you're telling things the best you can, you need to follow these rules. The other issue is I think 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you stole a shot, if you violated copyright, nobody would ever know. Now, anytime you violate that, you are going to be caught and you're going to be fined.
Well, I don't completely agree with you. I mean, if you have a lawyer and he's a good lawyer, and he can look at how the copyright is written, you can do some things that may be a little bit on the shady side, but you get away with them because you have a lawyer that's sifting through it.
Well, I'm glad you have the budget to keep a lawyer on retainer, because I certainly don't. The problem is, and this is one side where I might argue on your side a little bit, is even if you're not violating some of these rules, you are going to get served with a lawsuit. The lawyer's going to come and say, I am lawyer for a huge corporation, you are violating our copyright, take it down. And even if you're in the safe and clear, they'll acknowledge it and say, okay, we'll see you in court 4 to 5 times over the next 3 years. It's going to cost you about $80,000 in legal fees. You're okay with paying that to fight your rights. That is not right, but it's the nature of what we do. And
Well-
you can't, if you're here to make a living,
Right.
you will not be able to without following these laws.
It's, you know, and it's interesting. It's a really difficult way to make a living, to be perfect on everything. It's getting harder. As you know, just going out on a shoot, you might have 5 levels of insurance. The legal teams that are fighting back and forth, there's significant wrangling, and it's very difficult for you to go out and actually accomplish the shoot. Therefore, when things come up, and I know I'm supposed to call the legal team, I examine it because I want to make sure that this is something that's serious enough that I should call the legal team if I have any chance to get caught. What's going to be the outcome if I do get caught? I mean, there's different things I ask myself because I think in this field, it has, just like you said, it is getting more and more complicated.
And if you're already having trouble following the rules when you're not out and out knowing you're breaking them, as soon as you start trying to finagle anything, it becomes exponentially worse. And the problem is to some degree, as an instructor, do I care? Well, yeah, but a bigger issue is how many films are our students making every year that they can't send to festivals because they forgot to get talent releases, that they need to recut with music they have the rights to that destroys all of their hard work. That's the issue, is you can't get this stuff to fly under the radar anymore. You can't have an independent film where you're gonna have the sound design that you stole not get noticed. And people are going to vehemently fight for their rights and for their copyrights. And in essence, that's good for our students because now as students, they want to steal music, they want to steal sound effects, they want to sort of skip by copyright.
Well, they don't have to
but in
really
20
steal it.
years from now, it's going to be their work that is being stolen, and it's going to be their family who's not going to get food on the table because somebody else is stealing their work.
But Shawn, and I tell people this, and this really is a little bit of a sidebar right now. I tell students that there are steps to get copyright for a famous song, but at the same time, there are so many artists here in the Phoenix market that have full CDs that would love you to take their work and put it on your film.
And that's why I argue vehemently against trying to get around these rules, trying to cheat.
Yeah. Interesting though, I many years ago decided I was going to see how hard it was to play a series called On Television in my classroom. I was at Sam Houston State University teaching. And so what I did was I spent the day trying to get permission to show it in a classroom. Nowadays we don't try to even get permission to show it in a classroom. It's educational. We know it's good. I got all the way up to the executive producer of On Television, and then he shut me down and said I needed to talk to his lawyer, and he could only release it in 3 years from that date. The next week, of course, after I got off the phone, I showed On Television in my classroom. So therefore, again, I look at everything. I look at all the ground rules. I look at what the punishment can be. I look at the possibilities if they're even going to find I'm doing something. And I have to make a decision that way. So what does this mean for me? I urge my students to really, and you do too, to really examine everything and never, ever, when they know that they could end up in jail or they could end up in trouble, never go out of their way to tempt somebody to do that.
To me, I think we need to be even more conservative. A few years back, there was a case where there was a film that was accepted into competition in the Sundance Film Festival. A couple weeks before it was supposed to go, one of the other entries came in and said, by the way, they don't have the proper clearance for all their music. That film was removed from the festival. How does it feel to be that director, who I have no clue who he is, will never even probably find out who they were, who got that far, but because they tried to cut a corner on copyright, their chance at making it completely went down the toilet. And that's my issue is, if you believe in what you're doing, you need to follow these rules so that you can get to the audience. The other half is, now for a lot of our students, they used to be on the side of the consumer. They used to be saying, I want to torrent the music, I want to download illegally because I want this access. Now, as soon as you step foot in the film school, you are on the side of the producer. You are the person who in 10, 15 years, it's money out of your pocket. And we're not at the place, but if we look to the music industry, it has been decimated by illegally downloading music, that the industry completely fell apart. It's starting to come back with iTunes. It's starting to get back there. As we get faster internet connections, we are on the verge with film and television of the same place. We all know that where do films make the most amount of money these days? We're pretty much in DVD buying it. Who's buying DVDs anymore? How many of our people watching this video illegally downloaded something? And again, it's going to be your piece that's it's going to be affecting in about 20 years.
Okay.